Come on, guys, you can do better than that. Yeah, there we go. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me here today, guys. Who's here to add more doors? Right? That's an exciting thing. I knew this room was a smart room. What I'm going to go over today is the exact playbook that I used and that I've taught 1,000+ property managers over the years. It's going to give you instant results to do the right things at the right times, even in a weird market, right? So I know that you guys are smart. We have a smart room. This is the best conference that NARPM has. And I get asked a lot of good questions. Sometimes because I teach on AI, sometimes it's growth related, but today, Jay, how do you do it? Or, why do you do it? A lot of good questions. And those are just questions about my hair. Honestly, not sure why I do it yet. I'm sure I'll figure that out. 42 seconds from dry to high, okay? And it's a process. It's a process. So everything's a process that we do. We look for problems and we solve them and we find the opportunities that lie within. So I'm also a sales guy and I want to show you, I want to keep it high energy, so pop, pop, pop. So I'm going to give you what you need during this conversation so you guys can get those dopamine hits, right? Would that be all right? Okay, fantastic. So first, what you guys are going to learn, where to find the leads and how to leverage, right? Leverage not one-to-one conversations, but one-to-many conversations. What to say and what to email, right? That's most people, right? That's a challenge. We might be able to have a first conversation, but we don't know what the follow-up looks like. And if we don't know what to say, then we just fail before we even get started, and that's no fun. I'm going to show you how to put it into action. And let me get an idea of who we have in the room right here. So how many are broker owners? Raise your hand. Okay, all right, there we go. We got a lot of broker owners. So we'll go with that. No more questions. 0 to 100 doors. Who has 0 to 100 doors? Okay, 100 to 300, different people. Okay, cool, that's a majority. 300 plus, put your hands up. Fantastic, good, we got a good variety, I love this. All right, so who is this guy with this hair? Just property manager just like you, was in the weeds for about 20 years, 0 to 350 doors in the first 2 years, that's what I'm talking to you about today. Way too much caffeine. Sold 1,400 homes in 15 years to people who promised they weren't picky. Coaching consultant and part therapist. And I made more mistakes than you, right? The content that I'm teaching you today, I even did in a 6-week amplifier a few years back. And it was a small group. We had one of those participants add 300 new doors, 300 new doors. And it was 1 call a week for 6 weeks, 20 people in that group, 300 doors through an eviction attorney. Amazing stuff. So it's not just realtors, okay? Okay, so problem solver. When I was about 23, 24 years old, I moved from Massachusetts to Southwest Florida. And I took a job at the Hyatt. And I was part of the opening crew, right? We opened that hotel. Now you might think, wow, that sounds cool. Like, he opened a hotel. I was just a management trainee at the time, so there wasn't any glamour behind it. But they did have a problem to solve. They had this water slide as they're opening the hotel, and they need to put in the marketing how long the water slide is, but nobody knew. They couldn't find that information. So being part crazy and part problem solver, I put my hand up and I said, I'll measure it. So I went up the water slide, I crawled my way up with one of those engineering tools, and I got the slide number, so 152 feet. But I saw the opportunity to serve, right? Somebody had a problem, and how can I solve it? You're probably a little bit crazy, right? We're all a little bit crazy, and I'm going to tell you how to approach this strategy so that it feels good for you, because we're all different, right? Like my wife, she was in sales, and her approach was very different than mine. So I'm going to show you an approach that works for you guys specifically. So finding the opportunity, like around that time, we had a pretty significant Great Recession right? So around 2005 to 2008. And, you know, there were definitely problems that we identified. One of the problems is that I had nowhere to go because I left the Hyatt to start selling real estate, and I was trapped. So I had to find the opportunities with the problems I had dealing with the market crash. So we want to deal in things that we can control, okay? And we can't control the fact that Google can change their algorithms, okay? So years back, we used to focus on keywords and backlinks, and then it moved to Google My Business, Google Profile, local SEO. What we can control are growing through relationships. That will give us the control that we're looking for. And we want to get you from freeze to actual action. And you probably saying, well, I don't have everything that I need. I don't have the tools. I don't have the resources. So take out your phone a second, because I want to give you this in advance. So take out your phone, scan this. You'll probably see a book that comes up. Just scroll down and you'll see the form right there. You'll get the scripts, templates, step by step. I think it's like 27 pages. We put this together over the past year and a half, and we continuously update it. This is literally step by step everything that I'm going to be covering, and all of the scripts, templates, emails, campaigns, and all that fun stuff. So we're going to get you that. Give you guys a second to do that so that you have it. And I'm going to take a sip of water here. Cool. So even though you have the playbook, right, we got to keep you away from, we got to protect your mindset. We got to protect you, right? Because there's the drunk monkey, and then there's external conditions. So we might tell ourselves, if we've ever approached, you know, a realtor or a mortgage broker trying to get referrals for landlords, if we've ever done that, sometimes we get stuck and we'll tell ourselves, well, I don't want to sound stupid, or I don't know what to say, or, you know, I don't want to bring on new doors right now because, you know, because I have properties that are sitting on the market. Does anybody have properties that might be sitting on the market a little too long? Yeah, it's happening everywhere around the country. But this is the perfect storm for this strategy, right? These are the things that we want. So we're going to get rid of that self-talk because it's not the time to be scared. We have to fill not just what you're losing, but we have to add, right? Because if you lose 3 and add 3, well, you're still the same and you're stuck. We want to get you to increase your door growth count, and that's what we're going to focus on today, right? You guys feel these things. So I'm going to get you to take control of your growth, right? The truth is, if you follow this program in 2026, you'll be able to add 100, 200, or 300 doors. I mean, you can do that in months, but you probably have like a really hard time onboarding. When I went from 0 to 350, it was not easy. It was a mess. Like some of the stuff that we were doing, because I was new to the business too, I had no idea how to process a rent check, right? We've all been there. We all start somewhere, and like very, very scary time, but a lot of fun and exciting too. So this is when I get started. I accidentally found my opportunity. And my opportunity, after I finished measuring the water slide, was the Great Recession. So I was putting classified ads, I don't know if people still do that, but they were classified ads in the Detroit Free Press, Cleveland Plain Dealer, all of these Northeast and Midwest newspapers, and I was down in Southwest Florida, selling new construction to speculators, or sometimes selling the contracts. They would assign the contract, they would put money down. I would camp overnight to get the opportunity to put down a deposit for a client that I never met. So we were doing this, and it was fantastic on the sales side, but all of a sudden, boom, the music stopped. Was anybody here for that? Anybody remember that, right? It was almost overnight. Like all of a sudden, nothing's happening. You can't sell anything. So I had maybe 15, 20 people at the time that were under contract. And I'm like, look, you have like 3 or 4 choices, right? You got to figure out what to do. Either, we can still try to sell it, or you can rent it out, or you can move into it, or light it on fire and collect the insurance money. I mean, there's only so many options, right? So somebody said, hey, I'll try renting it out. And I said, great, I'll try renting it out too. Then all of a sudden, I had like 10 or 20 people, and I said, there's a lot of real estate agents in my situation right now, right? Identifying the problem. And those real estate agents need to either do property management, which I don't want them to do, or they need to refer that business to me. So all of a sudden, I started growing really fast, all from Realtor referrals. And it was a lot of fun because I made a lot of relationships. I was solving their problems, the real estate agents. Like they wanted to take care of their clients, and they weren't interested in doing rentals. So now that I had, about 50 doors real quick, these were all one-to-one conversations. And I was like, cool, now where do all these people hang out? Right? Like, where can I find more real estate agents? At the time, I was 26, young, single, right? So I joined the Women's Council of Realtors. Perfect place, not for the reason you might think, but so that I can serve, so I can join committees, do what I can and do my part, right? It was just the right place. Couple years after that, somehow I ended up becoming president of that organization for our local chapter. And I'll tell you, I owe that organization a lot because the relationships that I built, the friendships that I built, and the business that I built, just starting with them, it made everything. It's why I'm here today. So service sends a signal, right? And I'm wondering, okay, what other associations, what other places, right? For you, local associations, right? WCR, join committees, right? Be around the people that you want to do business with. If you're the broker owner and you're not the person who's doing sales in your company, then get this information to them, get the playbook to them. If you treat one realtor, if you treat one referral partner really well, the word is going to spread. The word does spread. It gets infectious. And if you're not ready for new doors, you're in trouble because you got to say, stop. I need to onboard these people and do a great job doing that, or else my business is sunk. Because at that point, if you fail someone, they want you because of the service. So you can't fail them. And you guys know that now. So the law of reciprocity kicks in, right? People want to give you that business back. So that was my aha on the side of leverage. So leveraging through referral hubs, the one-to-many approach, right? Why go see one agent when you can see broker and have access to 100 agents or hundreds of agents? Stop chasing, start serving, and leveraging. So I had to retrain myself. At the time, hustle harder, right? That was like my motto, rise and grind. Like I bought into all of that stuff. And I thought like I really needed to work harder to make more money, but I didn't. I needed to work smarter and I needed to just leverage. So that was a little retraining on my part. If anybody here in this room can resonate with that, slow down to speed up. You don't need to hustle harder. You ready for a quick win? A little dopamine hit? Yeah. There we go. All right, so Fast five. Fast five, anybody can start, right? Think of somebody, look in your phone, right? Think of anybody that you know that is a realtor or someone who has access to landlords that knows your audience, okay? Your audience. Write them down, put them in your phone, your fast five. That's your first assignment, is to do that. And it's simple, right? It's starting slow. Why do many of us fail or never get started? Because it seems like such a big task, such a big mountain if you don't know what to do. You know I do. I overanalyze stuff and I overcomplicate things, right? We've all been there. I see a lot of nodding heads. And when you do that, it's like, oh, geez, well, I have to do all of this. I can't comprehend it. So we're just going to take the steps here, right? So now what we need to do is we need to train those realtors, because they want to know how to introduce you. They want to know what to say. But the fact is they don't. And that's cool. You can just tell them, right? And it goes like this. If you know, right, when you come across any of your investors that are buying properties that want to find out what it'll rent for because they're investors, right? Let's talk. That's when you text me. You do a group intro, okay? And you tell them, do a group text. Because if you're here at this conference and you want to talk to somebody, are you going to give them your business card or are you going to take theirs? You want their information so that you can control, right? We're putting you in control. You can control the outcome. Short and sweet, instant authority, right? So now, what do we say to the agents, right? So we don't say, hey, got any clients for me? That sounded just as bad as it did right now in my room earlier. When you have an owner that can't sell, they have to move out of the property, they're moving for a job, right? Anybody who's frustrated with their property sitting on the market, then send them to me, right? Do a group text. This is what you need to do, right? But you might get this objection, and anybody who's been doing this long enough has heard this, if you sell properties. But you sell homes, Jay. So why would I refer my business to you? Anybody get that? Yeah. And to get around that, it's just having a level of trust. And it's just getting those reps in. So if you've treated people, right? Remember, service sends a signal. So if you've treated some realtors well, right? Give them those references. Say, look, talk to these people, right? There are other realtors who are sending us business as well, and we will protect you. Like if for some reason that property gets accidentally sold by my company, I'll give you 125% of the commission back, and we'll put it in writing, right? So you have to anchor that trust in, because that's how people make decisions, isn't it? You know, what do you do when you want to go to a new restaurant or find a new restaurant? What do you guys do? Exactly. Reviews, word of mouth, right? So trust is so important. Heather Whiteman, she's an example. She trusted me. She was one of the other members of Women's Council of Realtors. One agent, 10 doors in 3 months. So yeah, she made money, right? I mean, like, but the money's not important. You know, we had a referral fee that we would pay. The money wasn't important to her. That was last on the list. The most important thing to her is that we took care of the client, number one, that we send the client back to her when they're ready to sell, and then number 3 was the money. And this also serves, understand, right, because the mindset's really important. Understand, this serves as an incubator for the realtors as well. Because realtors are not always great at, and that's a really nice way of saying it, follow-up. Am I right? So if you have an expired listing, which we're seeing more and more of those now, right? You want to find realtors to refer you business? Get a segment of the MLS that have had agents with expired listings and start calling them, right? If you identify a good potential realtor partner, take them out for coffee, right? So it's a great incubator. Now, I had a problem. I had to retrain myself because I was doing it all wrong. So, you know, my wife Jessica and I, at this time, we were in Mike Ferry real estate training. Anybody heard of Mike Ferry? Yeah, okay. So I was one of those guys. I was calling expired and canceled listings, and my script was, you know, I'm looking for the owner. Are you still looking to sell or rent out that property, right? So I would just incorporate rent out that property. But I was very rigid with my script. So when I first joined Mike Ferry and I'm making these cold calls, we had a high ceilings in our house, and it's my wife and I, she was selling at the time too. We had 2 glass desks back to back and tile floor. So you hear these echoes, and we're right in front of each other doing something that we hate doing. Like, what a recipe for failure. And we're making these calls, and for 6 months, I'm so rigid with my scripts, I get 0 appointments. 0 appointments. Like, I'm ready to quit at this point. You know, I'm doing some business, like, in other ways, and I'm building the management company, but I'm not having any success on the calls. Until I changed my approach, right? I realized that, right, I wasn't having any personality. I just sounded like everybody else. So the way that you'll make this work is by being you and your authentic self. And you have to lean into that. You have to have your superpower. So I decided to be myself, and not only did I get results, but it felt better too, because it really sucked for 6 months, if I'm gonna be honest. Now, Jessica realized something too. The phones were not her jam, okay? And by the way, once I started figuring out the phone thing, that's when I started getting to 100 homes a year. Just drilling the phones is what I was really good at, my superpower. But Jessica, she was a great door knocker. Like, literally, she would knock on 5 doors. For every 5 doors she would knock on, she would get a listing. No joke. I don't know how the hell she did it. And sometimes she was just knocking on random people's doors, had nothing to do with expired listings. Just having a conversation with them, and she would get referrals. Like, if you've ever met her, she's got an electric personality, and like, people just want to give her business, I suppose, but she was just knocking it dead. But we're different, right? You know, we each have our own different superpower. And a script is just an outline. It's to keep you on track, right? It's not a manifesto that you read word for word, but it keeps you on track. It gives you confidence, because if you know what you need to be saying, then when you kind of stray a little bit, you get back on your script, you know? So scripts are a good thing, so you don't sound like a robot. Steal what works, right? So with all the scripts, use those QR codes, you'll get what you need in there. So finding the hub, not just the person. So back to the hub, Derek Carlson owns, I think it's actually a different name now, but at the time it was MVP Realty in Southwest Florida. Has anybody heard of MVP Realty? Okay, giddy up. So I used to be with MVP, and I built a strategic partnership, not just a relationship, but a partnership with Derek. And he had over 1,000 agents at the time. And he wasn't referring his property management business to anybody. So I just asked him, I was like, look, do you have any strategic partnerships? And I literally didn't even know what the word was. I Googled, what should I say to this guy? And he's like, yeah, I got a strategic partnership agreement. I'm like, fantastic, can I take a look at it? And basically it said, these are all the things that we will do for you. And in return, right, we just ask these things. So I said, hey, would it be cool if not only I gave you those things that you're asking for, but if I also gave some education to your realtors, right, who are probably doing lease-ups, and you may or may not have E&O insurance in your brokerage for property management, because I'll tell you, there's a bunch of them out there that are managing properties like informally, right? And you guys know this. So I asked them, I'm like, can I give them fair housing training for when it comes to leasing? We had this presentation called the ABCs of leasing. And it was like 10 slides. It was really simple, but it was a way to educate them. And I didn't know how it was gonna go, but everybody loved it. He was like, Jay, what other education can you give us? So we started putting together different education pieces, and within 3 months, we were getting 7 new doors a month from MVP Realty. It was amazing. One of the best partnerships that we had, and they're out there for you guys right now. So you have to find those opportunities. You have to look for them, because guess what? Derek had a problem, and I had a problem too. I was hungry, I wanted more doors. But Derek had a problem, and I solved it, right? I saw the opportunity, I came in and I solved it. Strategic partnerships, so a little bit more on the value. It doesn't have to be just presentations, and if it is presentations, it could be like the ABCs of leasing I was talking about. It could be an investor work through where you show people how to work with investors. There's a lot of real estate agents that don't know how to do that. It could be in a lot of different ways. It could be bites and bright ideas. And you can partner with a mortgage company or an insurance broker, someone else. It doesn't have to be a realtor, right? So referral hubs exist in many different ways. So you can partner with one of them and have one of these events. They'll foot the bill. They'll get the real estate agents there. All you have to do is facilitate it. But you don't know, you don't have the opportunity unless you ask. So you have to be curious, right? This goes back to the water slide. This goes back to the beginning of this presentation. If you have a problem and you face it with curiosity, right, what's the opportunity in this problem? So not just realtors, a bunch of other strategic partners out there as well. Now, after you do a presentation, there was another brokerage that we had picked up, and it was cool because I called, I was like, this is great. 1,000 doors, we have this on lock. We just need to nurture these people, have a process behind it. And I said, but now I need to go find another one. So I found 300 agent brokerage and I had a conversation, asked them if I could do the ABCs of leasing. And it was like a 20-minute presentation. So I did that, and there were 10 agents there out of 300. So would most of us think that might be a problem? Yeah. But I was curious. I'm like, hey, what would happen if I just adopted this anyway and I just assumed the relationship? What if I just picked up the phone and started calling the other 290 agents? And I'm like, hey, missed you at the ABCs of leasing. I'm your strategic partner in property management, and I'm wondering, who do you refer your property management business to? Damn, that worked really well because we didn't have anything formal, but I had a whole ton of referrals after that. And I'm like, this is a magic formula. Adopt the brokerage, guys. Adopt the brokerage. Assume the relationship. You earned it. So you're now their trusted advisor. You're their resource. And all these things happen slow, right? You got to stack them on. You can't do all of this at once. So it's kind of choose your own adventure. And that's the Fast Five. In your Fast Five that you wrote down or you'll write down later, if you realize one of those people might be a bigger opportunity, treat them a little bit different, right? And then that will be your next step. The proof loop. So this is the flywheel, right? The things that happen, and this is what they want. They don't do it to help you. So agents don't refer you business just to help you. Like, that would be great, but that's not the way the world works. We have to lead with value. So when we do lead with value, when we make them look good, we get that business back. Now, when I was telling you before about the 6-week course that we did, it wasn't even on my radar that an eviction attorney would be a good referral source. I had no idea. But there was this girl, Rosa, she was a BDM, and she came, it was like week 3, and she came on the call, and I was like, all right, guys, what were your results? How did you do? She was so excited. She was like, I added 300 doors. I'm like, are you kidding? I'm like, tell me, what happened? She's like, one eviction attorney. They were his doors. He actually owned them. So it wasn't that he was referring other clients' doors. He owned them. And now, after that, she earned his trust, and he started referring all of the business to her, all of the property management business. And then her boss ended up acquiring a new company through that referral source. So these things, they just stack up, right? So for you, an accountability partner, if you don't have one already, right? We have masterminds at BetterWho. That's how we facilitate these things, and we have accountability partnerships, because brainstorming ideas, not everybody has all the right ideas, right? I mean, like, ideas are ideas. We all have plenty of them, but if we can talk with somebody else and validate and walk through them, we were just doing that this morning with our booth. We were troubleshooting, right? Where do we put this? Where do we put this? I have this idea, right? So working off of each other. Strategic partners, multiply that reach. Your dream 100 is going to be everybody that you need. 100 referral partners. And you'll come across them as you go down this path. It's not that you need to start working on your dream 100 right now. And basically that is just high, know, and trust. People that are opportunities like Derek Carlson, he was one. Heather Whiteman, like the people I was talking about before, they were in my Dream 100. Michael Jackson, not the famous pop singer, but my good friend Michael Jackson that I met in Women's Council of Realtors, he was one of them. He didn't refer me a ton of business, but you know what he did do? He introduced me to a lot of other people who referred me a lot of business. Still Dream 100. He was a huge advocate and he knew what I was all about. So it doesn't have to be the person who knows the person. It can be the person who knows the person who knows the people. And that was Michael. So think about it and break it down. To build your Dream 100, if you add 5 people a week, you have 120 weeks, half a year, and you have everybody that you need in order to build a relationship-driven business through referrals. And also, you guys probably know this already, but let me break it down. Realtor referrals are the least expensive door you will add. They are so inexpensive. Most realtors that we were working with didn't even want the money. They were like, no, don't pay us. We don't care about that. It might be a conflict of interest, right? That's what they thought. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll keep the money. But in 20 weeks, so let's say in 2 or 3, let's say you only average 2 or 3 a week, then in the course of a year, you'll have built your Dream 100. I mean, simple strategy, discount versus design. So even if you have a referral hub, just like if you have somebody who adds 12 doors, and you might be tempted to give that person a discount. But what is a discount really saying? It's saying that you and your service are less valuable because this is a value exchange. It's not a dollar exchange. So stand strong with what you charge and who you're worth. You don't have to give a discount to their clients, nor should you. Now, also, this applies. I was not aware that, because during my time, this wasn't happening, but some property managers allow outside realtors to do the lease up and then they just do the management. And I didn't know that actually existed. One of my coaching clients, she told me that, and I was like, well, why are you letting them to do the lease ups? Even on renewal, right? Even on make ready, she was letting them do the lease ups. I'm like, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. And she was, nervous because she didn't want to lose the referring agents. And I'm like, the ones that'll walk away are the ones you want to walk away. She changed that strategy. She literally doubled her revenue per unit in 1 year. Doubled her revenue per unit. You don't have to, it's your business. You don't have to allow other realtors to do the lease up. So when you're making new introductions, that doesn't have to be a thing. Oh, plan B. I love the plan B. So if you're on a call and somebody says, well, we refer our property management business to someone else. Yeah, okay, fair. But what do we know? Property management is the sanitation business of real estate, right? It's down, and there's no disrespect there. Like, I've been in it. It's down and dirty, but guess what? If we can get down and dirty and we can build this thing, like, it's a great, great business. Much better than selling real estate, because real estate's transactional for the most part. It's hard to build a business that you can sell. So I'll be your plan B. I'll be your backup plan. Save my number in your phone, because I know it's not if, it's when. Whoever you're referring the business to is going to mess up. And when they mess up, you're going to look for a plan B. Wouldn't you want one now? So train them. Tell them what to do. Save my number in your phone as Plan B, J Property Manager. Literally, people would save that in their phone because I asked them to. Because what do we do when we search? They're not going to remember my name for the most part. So I have to train them on how to find my name in their phone. It's these little things that are just so important and make all the difference. So some of the different value pieces that you offer, you may be doing this already. If not, these are some good ideas. There's also more good ideas in that playbook. But let realtors know, look, I'll be a resource. I'll give you access to some off-market properties, right? And these might be your investors that want to sell without having to market it on the MLS for one reason or another. Free rental analysis for your investors, anyone looking to buy, right? Property valuations, resources for nervous landlords, right? Like all of these things are extremely valuable, so be their resource. Now, we were talking about follow-up before. Follow-up's tough. So a lot of people don't have a follow-up plan. They'll make the first call, and I had one of my clients, she made 60 initial outreaches in a week, and then she did that for 3 weeks in a row. And I said, awesome, so what's the follow-up plan? And she's like, what do you mean? So you called them, they don't remember anything about you, they're gonna quickly forget. People have low attention spans. You have to have a follow-up strategy. The value-add resources can be part of your follow-up strategy. You can include those in the email campaign. When to call again. And all these things are in the playbook as well. Triple touch. So why not take that first opportunity to hit them 3 times instead of just one? It creates top-of-mind awareness. If you just call someone the first time and say, hey, I'm just calling to find out who you refer your property management business to, no one, well, if you come across any of your sellers that can't sell or investors that are looking to rent their property out, like, would you mind giving me a call? Save my number in your phone as Jay Property Manager. I'm gonna shoot you an email. It's just gonna have a couple short pieces of information for you, and just let me know you got it. That conversation, rather than, all right, cool, you don't have anybody, see you later, bye, that doesn't work. So the triple touch. And then, so what you also do is when you get off the phone with them, you just shoot them a short text saying, nice speaking with you, make sure you look for that email. Oh, sure as shit, they're gonna remember you, and they're gonna remember to add you to their phone. So this just creates stronger top-of-mind awareness, helps you stay sticky throughout the relationship. So Jillian, she's the one who wasn't doing any of that follow-up. So once I told her, like, look, we need to do something about this, and she's like, Jay, can we use AI? Fantastic. So we used AI to create a 6-email referral campaign, and she just tweaked it a little bit, and she's not an AI person, she's not a techie person. And within, I think, 30, 40 minutes, she said, she got those emails done. So now she has follow-up. So what's next for you guys? First, you have to commit and you have to decide if this is a must. This is important, right? Is this gonna be a must? Figure out what your superpower is if you are a caller or if you're a door knocker, right? What is comfortable for you? And then I prefer things be uncomfortable, honestly, because that's the only time that we grow. But for those of you who like comfort and like playing in one zone, then find out what works for you. If you want to push yourself, push the goal, push your strategy, right? Being comfortable, being uncomfortable, right? So important in life. That's the only time that we grow. Monthly momentum, so this is all about setting a goal. Your goal can be 2, 4, 10 new doors a month, but it should be attainable. A good coach of mine before had said, Jay, don't set your goal to be 100 new doors in a year if the previous year you did 30, right? Because what's going to change significantly? Move that mark to 60, then you double your previous year, and then when you get to 60, everybody friggin' celebrate, and then just change the goal. If you hit it in August, fantastic, you hit it in August, but everybody gets to celebrate and see that win. Everybody on the team gets to celebrate. That's so important, right? Buy-in from our team, change management. Some of you may go home after this conference, had a lot of great ideas. A lot of great ideas. Now, you go home and you start telling your team about all of the great ideas, all of the things that you learned, all of the things that you now want to implement. And they're like, oh shit, Cindy's coming back from the conference. What's gonna happen? We just finished implementing RentVine and Property Meld, and now she wants us to do a residence benefit package and a new inspection software, and like, when is it gonna stop? So set a goal, make it attainable, right? Now, to get the goal, you might be saying or have said quite often, I need more time. If I only had more time in the day. Because I'd love to do this, Jay, but what else has to suffer? So here's your assignment. Write down all of the things that you don't like to do or probably just shouldn't be doing. And it might be throwing lock boxes on. You might need to have some discipline, right? Create some discipline. Create a habit to say no to certain things. You might be adding properties to the MLS. You might be doing that kind of stuff yourself. Whatever it is, write down all of the things that you just don't want to do. And if you are at 0 to 100 doors, that's your first hire. That's their job description, right? So congratulations, you just hired your first person. And that person should be a remote team member, have it just desk stuff, right? No field work if you're 0 to 100. And that person can be a remote team member, a virtual assistant. That's how we help a lot of our clients to create that leverage, because if you don't have the time, you need it and you have to do something, so we want to do the smart thing. Now, if you have 100 to 300 doors, that is typically where you say, this is where the sales process stops, and this is where onboarding begins. So if you're the salesperson or whoever the salesperson is, they should only be doing sales-related activities. So once that PMA is signed, done. Everything else after that is taken on by the onboarding specialist or whatever that role is in your company. And it's an easy handoff. Jane, love talking with you. It's been fantastic. We are so thrilled, but I have good news and bad news. Bad news is we're not going to spend as much time together anymore. And I know that you probably, we've developed a relationship. I like you, you probably really like me. But here's the good news. You're going to like Sally a hell of a lot better than me. And she's going to take great care of you. She's going to do X, Y, and Z. So creating the right handoff is essential. And this is the opportunity to do that. So if you're anywhere 0 to 300 doors, that should probably be your next move once you write down all the things that you shouldn't be doing. Keeping score. So in addition to setting the goal, there's some numbers that you need to track. So 0 to 100 doors, you're going to do this manually, most likely. You should be doing it manually, I think. 100 to 300, manual or using a CRM, and then 300 plus, using a CRM for sure, right? If you have more than 300 doors and you're not using a CRM properly, that needs to be your takeaway from this conference. You have to. And you have to create pipelines. And if you don't know how to do that, then you can pull me aside later and ask me, or ask me for a resource for that, and I can help you guys. But here's the numbers that you would track for this specific purpose. It would be the initial realtor reach outs, okay? So that goal, and it has to be the goal and the actual. So if that goal is 100 initial realtor reach outs, that means first time that you talk to them, that's the goal. The leads, the amount of leads that you get in your business by business source, so if they come from realtor referrals specifically is what I'm talking about here. The amount of appointments, right? Because if you get a lead, there's a next step, right? That next step might be an appointment. And then how many PMAs signed. This is best practice in property management businesses. So if you're not doing that already, that needs to be a homework assignment for you, right? So the initial reach outs, the leads, the appointments, and the PMAs. Now, to win long term, you got to remove those distractions, and you have to time block, because just because somebody else is doing 50% of what you were doing before because you're creating leverage, just because that exists doesn't mean that you're not going to get distracted by 10 other things that day, right? That you're not going to get distracted by the fire that John brings to you. John's like, hey, Bob can't find his mail keys. He's the owner who just moved back into his property. Now all of a sudden the business owner needs to get involved. No, If this is your business, you have to remove distractions, stay laser focused, and do what is in your role. So you have to stop and say no sometimes. Consistency and scale, this is that time blocking, right? Doing one thing at a time and blocking focus time for it. So for example, to put this presentation together, I could just, piecemeal it, right? Or I had 3-hour chunks in my calendar to work on this. It was blocked out. Nothing else exists, right? You have to make it non-negotiable. For example, if you have kids or, whether they're small or grown, and you're supposed to pick them up from school at 3, are you gonna do it? Well, you better, or else there's gonna be a problem, right? You gotta pick up your kids. So treat it the same way. Like, this is a non-negotiable. It's your responsibility. You made a commitment. If you haven't already, scan the playbook, get that playbook. And guys, if you have any questions about this plan or making the playbook work, we're gonna be here, Better Who. We'll be here for the remainder of the conference. And you can pull me aside and ask me questions too. Like, I love to share, as long as you guys promise me one thing. If I share something with you that you win at, you need to let me know, because that's why I do this. Now is the time to give me a round of applause.